Hi everyone, welcome to episode 73 of the XS Noize Podcast. I'm Mark Millar. Thanks for listening. In this episode, I talked to JUNO Award-winning singer-songwriter Donovan Woods. If you missed the previous episode, I spoke to Grant Nicholas from Feeder about their new album, Torpedo. So check it out, and if you like the podcast, please subscribe and share with your friends. If you want up-to-date music news, album reviews and interviews, then check out our main website at xsnoize.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Search for the tag at XS Noize Music. Here's XS Noize writer Daniel Lynch with a taste of what's been on the website this week.
3 big name album reviews on the website this week. Franz Ferdinand are back with a greatest hits album, covering the best of their output over their 5 studio albums, including their self-titled 2004 Mercury Prize winner. Hits to the Head features 18 already released tracks and 2 brand new songs. Laurie Gava gives it 8 out of 10, saying it's an excellent overview of the band's output. If you listen to episode 72 of the pod, you'll know the Feeder's new album is called Torpedo. Grant Nicholas told Mark Millar all about it. Alex Hoggard's had a listen and gives it 8 out of 10, saying Torpedo achieves the band's aim of being an uplifting record. Finally, David McElroy has been listening to Kraftwerk's Remixes album and comes to the conclusion that Kraftwerk are so difficult to remix, only the band themselves can do it justice. On Remixes, they've done just that. Read the full reviews at xsnoize.com.
In this interview, songwriter Donovan Woods talks about his new Big Boy Hurt EP, songwriting, his love for British band Oasis, and much more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the XS Noize Podcast with Donovan Woods. So let's go. So hi Donovan, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Thank you. How you doing?
So first of all, going back to the start, can you remember the first band or artist that made you pay attention to music?
Well, I mean, the first stuff I heard was my dad likes Paul Simon. The first things that perked my ears up were Simon and Garfunkel records that we had in the house, and they were on records. I'm young enough that records it was an anomaly, like we had those things on CD, but it was just fun to play them on records, more tactile, and it was very funny to me. Like I thought the main thrust of music was like to be funny. Those songs were funny to me. Like Kodachrome was funny. Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard. It seemed like lighthearted and fun. And then my dad was, I'm named after my dad's favorite artist, who's Donovan Leitch, the Irish singer-songwriter. So I was introduced to him really early on too, of course, because I'm named after him. And the same thing, his songs felt very lighthearted and funny to me. I always thought that I was like, oh, music's supposed to be funny. Those were the first things and then my own first things were like, I'm a child of, like the 1990s. So it's like hip hop was the first thing that I gravitated to on my own with, Jay-Z and Notorious B.I.G. and things like that.
Yeah, some great artists there. In fact, Simon and Garfunkel were one of my first introductions to music from my father as well. So yeah, we share that in common. When did you decide you wanted to follow music as a career?
I mean, I feel like I haven't decided yet. I think, I loved when I was in high school and, the beginning of university. Well, no, it was mostly high school, I guess. I was really into Oasis, and Brit and Blur and the sort of the Brit pop thing, and the bands that came with that were like the Choral and things like that. Like, and then that sort of that was the first like introduction to being a cool guy in a band. It really was like Liam Gallagher. I just thought if I could wear an army jacket like that and stand in that fashion at a microphone, that might be something, you know what I mean? And then Bush, these types of things. Those were my first introduction to being in a band. And I had a band in high school, and we were terrible, but it was like that introduction to feeling cool, you know what I mean? And that was sort of the feeling that I loved. And I thought if I could do it, I could do it. But I didn't, I didn't think I was cool enough or good looking enough. That's for sure.
Can you remember the first song you wrote that you thought, right, this is a really good song?
I remember those are two. I remember the first song I wrote, was named after a girl in my class called Astrid, because I just thought she had a cool, I didn't like her, but I don't want to stress her out. I did not like her. I was only attracted to her. Her name had some sort of quality of the language that I loved. But the first song that I wrote that I thought was good, I was like 21. I mean, I knew the things I was writing weren't good when I was a teenager. And then when I was in university, I sort of had turned back to writing songs after a long stretch of believing that I was going to be an actor. And I sort of came back to writing songs, and the ones that I wrote then when I was about 20 and 21, I started to be like, oh, these might be okay. Because the people that I gave them to, listened to them rather than just humored me and said, oh, it's really good, dude. They said, I listened to it, And so then I thought, no, maybe these are okay. But it took like 20 years, 15 years.
And why did the acting gig not work out?
I hated it. I mean, I don't know why I even thought. I mean, it's embarrassing to say, and it's like you come to terms with it more now as you get older. But some people just have a longing to be famous. I just felt like I wanted to be famous, and it's so tacky and embarrassing. But that was the route that I thought was right for me. And then I moved to Toronto, which is where you kind of live in Canada if you want to be an actor. And I was in commercials and a few little TV shows, and I was at an audition one time, and I thought, you know what, I hate this. I hate it. I hated everything about it. And it was just like a switch flipped, and I was just like, I don't know how I ever fooled myself into thinking that this was something I wanted to do. And I never did it again. I just stopped. I just flat out stopped.
In 2020, you released Without People, which became your most successful release to date with more than 10 million streams and climbing. How did that feel, having such success?
I think it's at 20 million now.
Oh, 20 million, there you go.
Yeah. That was a record that didn't get much attention. It was sort of released at a time when we were all in the depths of the pandemic. So it really didn't get all the media push or anything, all the things we were hoping, all the attention that we were hoping it would get. It didn't get any of it. So it felt like at the time, it felt like a bit of a pass, but people are really listening to it, which is really heartening. And it feels really good. It just, I would much rather people listen to it and find it useful, than get all those markers of career success, like appearing on a show or whatever. I don't get any of those things. But I'm really gratified by people reaching out and saying it's useful. The songs are useful to them.
Yeah, absolutely. XS Noize had the pleasure of premiering the video for Whatever Keeps You Going, featuring the choir of JP Roberts Public School Music Project. It's a beautiful song and video.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah. Well, those kids, it's hard to go wrong with singing kids. That's, there's something about singing kids that is like biologically pleasing to us or something, isn't there?
And right up to now, soon you will release the Big Hurt Boy EP on March the 18th. Where did the title come from?
It's such a funny title to me. It's it came from a Martin Simpson song. Do you know Martin Simpson? He's like a folk artist. I think he's English, but he has a song called Never Any Good, which I heard him play at a folk festival that I was at. I was in a workshop with him. It's one of those things, I don't know whether you do that at your folk festivals or your festivals where some of the artists will all play together in one, and we do that in Canada. I don't think they do it in the US, but they may do it in the UK. So I was on stage with him when he played this song, Never Any Good. It was about the song about his dad. And, basically the thrust of the song was, he was so frustrated by his dad's, deficiencies. And in sort of studying the story of his dad's life, he realized if he was a more practical person, he would have never married his mother and never had him. So it's like, not only are you a product of your parents' failings, if without your parents' failings, you may not exist, which is so, available to everybody in terms of like, if your parents were didn't fall in love with each other so much and like have to do it, you would not exist. So, like if they were more, it got me sort of sent down a trail of thought about my own life and my own kids. And, anyway, and in that song, he describes his brother as a big hurt boy. And it's sort of one line in passing. And I thought, when I heard it, well, I've never heard a description that I am more triggered by than that. I feel it's a good description for me, but at the same time, I think it's horrendous and embarrassing. And when language does something like that, when it, sparks you or something, lights something up in you, you got to go, oh, I have to pay attention to this language. It's saying something to me. So that's where the title came from.
Did you go into the recording of the EP with any preconceived ideas, how you wanted it to sound or the kind of songs you wanted to write about?
I'm always my songs are always I'm always just sort of gathering them up into these 5 songs really felt like an EP that are on this, and they sort of came out, not all at the same time. In the middle of writing this EP, I wrote a song with Donovan called Iowa too. And these songs, those were all sort of written at the same time. And then these 5 just sort of gathered together and they started ending up on lists together. And I was like, oh, these are the same kind of, they felt like a kinship to me. I can't explain it. I think you just sort of, and maybe that's all just like bullshit, but you sort of like, as an artist, you're just sort of feeling around for cues and going like, oh, these songs seem to work together. And those 5 seem to work together. But in writing, I'm never like trying to write to a theme or anything like that. And then in recording, I'm always just trying to like capture, I'm trying to always capture the feeling of like my first recordings, which was like, they were all accidental and full of weird, artifacts in the recording. And, they felt really alive. It's hard to, once you have the resources to be able to record things really well in really good studios, you lose this thing that you had, which was like this sort of, there's some sort of magic in shitty recording, Yeah. And, everybody knows it. It's like why everybody loves Blood on the Tracks, and you can hear that the bass player's a little behind, or that the bass player's still learning the song, You can sort of hear the artist figuring out the song as they record it. So you're always trying to like manufacture a scenario where you can get that type of feeling. But when you have the resources to be in like a studio and have a nice catered lunch and stuff, it's hard to get back to that.
Well, let's talk about some of the songs. First song, I won't mention it again. I like the lyric. I was 7 years old when we drew maps of a fire escape from our houses in school. It's unlikely we'll use them, but I know the goddamn things were hard because I knew. Where did that come from?
That was literally a memory of in my elementary school, which is like grade 1 to 8 here, kindergarten to grade 8 here. Or some people go to middle school here too. But, young kids, they handed out this sheet. And I remember it was sponsored by McDonald's. It was like a piece of paper with a grid on it. And you were supposed to map your house and then describe your fire escape route that you would take with your family to get out of your house if it was on fire. And to me at this age, I was just like, oh, our house is going to burn down here at some point when we got to fucking we got to get in gear with a plan. Like, I was like, this is inevitable. And I just felt like, and that's sort of what I'm trying to get at. Like, I worked really hard on it. I remember like sweating over this thing, being like, I got to get this plan airtight if this thing is going to burn down. And I'm still very scared of house fires. And I wonder whether that's like, I go around the house unplugging things and feeling the electrical sockets to make sure they're not hot. So I just wonder if that was the root of all those problems. So anyway, I did work really hard on it because I felt like I was like, well, the house is going to burn down. I better get this right.
Did you?
No, I never burned down. I've still never been in a house fire.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God.
Leave When You Go, featuring Ralph. It's such a wonderful story about a couple meeting at a party for the first time, then leaving together, and they're still together to this day. Yeah. I think that it's like I was hoping to just write a romantic thing, or a thing that felt like intimate in that way. Or things that describe little moments is really a joy to me. If you can get them right and also make them have a feeling of freedom in the music. I remember when I was in university, I went over to this party at a friend's house, and this girl that we knew met a guy there who somebody brought, who was from, I think he was Australian. And they met, and we watched them just sort of talk to each other for like an hour, just completely engaged talking to each other. And then they both stood up, and then she said, I would like to announce that I forget what his name was, but she announced to the whole party. She was like, I would like to announce that Trevor and I are in love and we're leaving. And we were like, what the fuck? And they are married. Like, we watched them actually meet each other and leave. They both just left, and they planned on,
it was, you know, I don't know if it was love at first sight, but we watched them meet and fall in love in the course of like an hour and a half. So I guess I was trying to think of that, you know, that feeling where you meet somebody and you go, I'm not leaving here without you.
Yeah, I suppose that relates to what you were saying at the start, you know, about your parents meeting, you know, and, you know, what happened that they never met, you know, and these people just meeting for the first time.
That's right. Very observant. That's sort of why I felt like those songs made sense together in some way, or that the theme of the record made sense with that song in some way.
I wonder if they've ever heard the song or will hear the song and what they would think.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't really know her anymore. Her name's Melissa. I don't really know her that well anymore. I wonder if she would. I mean, maybe she'll hear an interview or something. But I wonder if they're still married. I think they are. As far as I know, I think they are. Yeah.
Yeah. And Toronto pop artist Ralph features on the song. How did she get involved?
We've known each other a while, and she's a wonderful vocalist. I thought like we had recorded it with just me, and you know, there's this character who is ostensibly a woman in the song who, you know, she's so present in the sort of hovering above the lyric, and to just have it be my voice was so, we were just like, God, it's not sexy in it. There's nothing in it. There's just no tension in it beyond just me blabbing. So we thought we had to get a woman, and you know, Ralph's wonderful, and I've been thinking about having her on something for a while, and she's perfect. She came in and it was great. It was a really fun night recording her vocal.
Yeah, it works really well together, both your voices.
There's something about, I mean, it needed that. Like that song. Sometimes you don't need it, and sometimes you really need another voice, you know.
Is there another song on the EP that maybe means the most to you?
I mean, there's the last song that's called No Time Soon, which to me feels like a bit of like trying to write a biography of myself to a certain degree. I mean, it's kind of a self-indulgent song. It's not entirely exciting. It's about the lyric only. I mean, there's nothing else really to it. It's basically just a poem set to music, which is that's what I love. And that's sort of what I've always endeavored to do. But my love of pop music and catchy melodies always seems to take me away from just trying to do really simple poetic things. That song means a lot to me. And it's a bit self-indulgent to have it on there because it's not very exciting, but I hope people are still able to find a use for it, you know.
Well, that's interesting because my very next question was, when you're writing songs, what's more important to you, a great lyric or a great melody?
Yeah, like, I mean, it's obviously everything. There's no way to sort of separate it. It's like, you know, so many non-songwriter people say, what comes first, the lyric or the melody? And you go, oh, it's all the same. It's sort of like it all happens or it doesn't happen. There's sort of no way to describe it. I will, you know, if I was like gun to my head, had to answer that question, I think it's probably melody. I would sacrifice sense in a lyric to satisfy a good melodic line. You know, if I had to make a lyric make less sense to serve a really good melody, I would do that, you know.
Yeah, well, some of the best songs ever written don't mean anything, but they sound great.
A lot of them mean nothing, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're such an in-demand songwriter, you know. You've been recorded by the likes of Tim McGraw, Charles Kelley. Your songs have been recorded by them and more.
Yeah.
When you write a great song for these artists, are you ever tempted to keep them for yourself?
Yeah, I do it all the time. I mean, I just wrote a song with I wrote 2 songs on the most recent Barenaked Ladies record, and I recorded both of them as well. You know, I loved them. I love those songs. You know. There's nothing I can do. I mean, I recorded the song that Tim McGraw cut of mine as well. I just like them. You know what I mean? You're so in love with them that you gotta, I mean, that's the thing. So many people say to me, or other musicians say to me, hey, I would like to pitch some songs of mine to artists. I have a lot of songs that that I'm not going to use. And I'm always like, well, if you're not going to use them, like nobody's going to use them. Mm-hmm. You know, if you have a song that someone else is going to want to take on, because I mean, just to have a song you love so much that someone else wrote, you got to really love it. And, you know, if you have a song that good, you're going to want it. You're going to want it for yourself too. You know, the two are fairly indistinguishable. Every song of mine that somebody else has recorded, I certainly have thought to myself, I could do that too, you know.
And you've also co-written songs with other songwriters. How do you enjoy that process?
I love it. I mean, I love. It can be awful. It can be like feel like torture in some ways. You know, when you're stuck or you can't get something, or or your instincts don't line up, and sometimes you're just standing there staring at somebody for 7 hours, you know, and that can be horrible. But when it works and when everybody's there and present and like wants to talk, it's great. I mean, the truth is that you're just chatting towards a solution, you know, talking about how the idea of the song makes you feel. And in those discussions, I mean, the best lyrics are conversational, right? So the skill of co-writing is being a conversationalist, essentially. So you're sort of just there having a conversation until the answers emerge, you know.
I take it you wouldn't need to be too precious about your ideas in case they're discarded by the other songwriter. Do you ever have those arguments?
Yeah, I have like I have like a real strange relationship with my ideas where if somebody rejects them, it's not like I'm not upset by it, but if somebody else rejects one of my ideas, I just go, they don't get it. I'm right. You know, I feel very confident about it, and I move on and I think about that idea in another way and try to put it into another song. You know, like I don't, you know, it's just selection. It's not rejection. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not necessarily that it's not right. It's just not right for this song. So I'm never really bothered by that. Every once in a while you'll write with somebody who shuts down everything everybody says, and that's a drag. But then you just go, I'll never write with them again, you know?
Is there anyone you would like to write with that you haven't worked with before?
Man, like I have gotten a lot of my ones that I wanted to do. I mean, they're, you know, writing with someone is hard. Like just liking someone's music isn't necessarily, you know, I love a lot of people's music. I don't want to have anything to do with it because I love it. You know, I don't want to go into a writing session with someone I love Rufus Wainwright, who's a Canadian songwriter. I'm enormous fan of his writing. I don't want to write with him. I don't want to meet him. I just want to enjoy him from afar. You know, he's lovely. I want to just enjoy him. So that's not that question, but it's like there are certain voices that you go, I would love to write. And I mean, there's tons of them. Recently, it's been like I have really loved Dermot Kennedy's voice in a lot of things recently. It's just that sort of screaming that he's doing is like really resonant for the times for some reason. And I feel like, you know, I think, I would love to write for somebody who sings like that, who everything sounds like life or death, you know? And so that's more how I feel like I fall in love with singers more than I do writers, you know?
Unfortunately, your live dates have been postponed. Do you have any idea when you'll be back out on the road?
Well, we've got some of those rescheduled for the fall, and we're just like working on the particulars, and they'll be announced. So some of those dates that were supposed to be with Aoife O'Donovan will be scheduled to the fall, and I'll be on some of those. And then some of those I'm not going to be able to reschedule. But we've got like, I think it's like 8 we're going to be able to do in the fall in England, I think. But hopefully I can be back as soon as I can be back. You know, it's hard to predict anything these days, but it's I got to get out there as soon as it's safe. We got to go. You know, I've left 2 years in the can. We've all left 2 years on the floor, so we got to pick it up.
I like to ask my guests the following questions. Out of all the albums in your collection, who do you have the most records by?
Oh, that's an interesting question. That I own the most of. I mean, if it's like the amount of that I've bought over the years, it's probably Oasis, because I own all of the CD single box sets, and I own all of I would imagine that it's Oasis.
Did you ever have the Benson and Hedges box sets?
No,
the CD singles.
All the ones there, in the gold little, yeah. Is that based on a cigarette case or something? I didn't even know that. Yeah,
based on, I think, Benson and Hedges, the cigarettes.
It had the gold and the silver one, and it had like Underneath the Sky and these types of I loved all those. Yeah.
What would be your favorite Oasis album or song?
That's a big question. I really like Slide Away. Everything when I hear it now, I'm just reminded of how good it all is. But I really like Gas Panic off of, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants.
Good song.
My pulse pumps out a beat. Just like the pocket that they find so often. I mean, and that song has the same sort of pocket as Do You Know What I Mean? And I love Do You Know What I Mean? I was like right in the peak of my obsession with them when that song came out as a single. And it was like that video with all those, like, he comes off a helicopter and shit, and he's got like a new haircut. And the first line is like, step off the train all alone. It was just fucking wonderful. But those, yeah, like I mean, anything where he's at that plateau, I love. But I really loved You Know What I Mean?
At the time of talking, Liam has a new single out tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I haven't kept up with his singles, and neither with Knowles and the High Flying Birds either. Although I'm told that Knowles stuff is pretty good.
Yeah, it's different.
I didn't keep up with BDI or anything. You know.
Yeah. No, definitely. BDI were very underrated.
Yeah, were they good? I've heard they were good.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Well, how could he not be compelling? That guy.
Which song or album is your guilty pleasure?
I'm not like, I don't feel guilty about anything. I love anything. I mean, I think like the one that would be unexpected to people is I have a real love for Miley Cyrus, that like everything she does, I just think she might be like the best artist in the world. Like, it's just possible to me that it's just something about her voice where you're like, I mean, and Justin Bieber's the same way. And I kind of sort of grew up in the same neighborhood as Justin Bieber, but like Miley Cyrus's voice, just like, when you hear it, you just go, this is a hit song. I'm here to party. I can just sit back, you know, and she'll do it. So probably that would be the most unexpected, but I don't feel guilty. I love her.
And here's one for you. Which song would you play for someone who has never heard music before?
Never heard me. What happened to them? Are they okay? I don't know. I feel like I should take them to the hospital first. You know, like my kids watching what they lit up with when they were little. I mean, maybe Cecilia by Simon and Garfunkel.
Good song.
Like, just to be like, hey, it's joyful, and it can be about a sort of frustratingly sad thing, and it's joyful. I don't know. I mean, I don't think you find too many people that wouldn't like that song. Yeah,
it is a joyful song, but when you listen to the lyrics, it's not really, you know.
It's kind of a drag, yeah. Yeah.
No, good choice. So what's next in the immediate future for you?
Well, nothing for a while, but I have a Canadian tour that starts in April. So I'm rehearsing for that. We got a band together. We're doing it, and then we're moving into venues in Canada that are big. So we got to have a big show. And so we got, we're planning those big shows, and, just rehearsing that, and then out in April with that, and then summer festivals, and then in the fall I'm doing the whole United States, and then back to the UK in the late fall, and that's it. Really, that's all I got planned. I got to go back to album by the time early next year starts. So I'm sort of rehearsing for the shows and gathering up songs that I think will be on the next full length right now. Yeah, got about 3 or 4. So
look forward to hearing them, and hopefully you can stop off in Ireland at some stage, in Belfast or Dublin.
Yeah, this is probably such an American thing to say, but I watched that show Normal People, and it made me want to go to Ireland so bad.
It's a great show.
Oh, what a wonderful show. It's just, you love that guy in it so much. Like, he's so lovely. Anyway, I'll do anything to get there. I was imagining myself there, eating some beautiful stew in a pub, and at this time of year right now, but no, I'm instead shoveling my driveway in Canada. So I'll be there as soon as I can. Trust me.
Cool. Well, listen, Donovan, it was great to talk to you, and I wish you all the success with the new EP. I'm really, really enjoying it. It's very good. So listeners, check it out. It's out in March.
Beauty. Thanks, Mark. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good day.